Hello and welcome back. This is the Dink and Dish podcast. My name is Barbara Brodowski with my co-host and fitness legend Tammy Lee Webb. We are two fitness experts and pickleball enthusiasts. And if you leave here with one thing and one thing only, it's dinking is not a warm up. It's picking up steam. When I was playing this morning, I went and took a clinic at the club I play at, and I was hop, skipping, and jumping around. And some of the ladies I play with were meeting to play together. And I saw one of them like doing some hip openers and some
Yay! It's wearing off.
It is, because they'll see me hop around, but it's still not normal. But the goal is obviously for it to be normal.
Yeah.
I mean, normalcy would be great, but we're not there yet.
Even though we're not normal, but right. we know what we're supposed to be doing is the right thing to do so that we can remain on the courts. Yeah.
Yeah. Because this morning I was just in a clinic, but you get out of your car. And I wasn't going to play hard, but I knew I was going to, it was backhand and forehand clinic. So I knew I wasn't going to be running around, but I still went through my whole routine, popping my knees up, hamstring curls, squatting, lunge. I went through the whole entire thing. And I do it too, kind of to I'm trying to make it look normal, but everyone just stood and waited for the coach. I'm like, ladies, watch. There's a purpose, but no one cares right now. No one cares yet.
No,
they will.
Not yet.
Not yet. Well, listen, last week we had a good time chatting about ankle and foot health, but one thing we didn't do that we need to do for sure is introduce ourselves, because we kind of popped on like everyone would just know us and trust us, but we have a pretty extensive background.
Don't you know us? Don't you already know us? Yeah. So we thought it would be wise to share what our background is, besides we're fitness professionals and love pickleball. So because between the two of us, I think we have it probably close to 100 years experience.
Yeah, you said that. I was like, wow, I think you're right, though.
Well, me more than you. But anyway, well, if you don't mind, I'll go first, since I'm the eldest in the group. I've been into fitness ever since I was a little girl. I grew up in a little town with brothers, and my dad was a semi-pro baseball player. So fitness and sports was always a part of our life. So then I went to Chico State and I got a degree in exercise science. Today they'll call it kinesiology. So I really enjoyed learning about the body and how it worked through various exercises. So if you're doing a forward lunge, what's happening with the body when you're doing that? And can everybody do that? It's, sometimes it's contraindicated for other people than just the person that can do it, or somebody might have some knee injuries. So, I finished up my master's degree there. I then went on and started traveling the world and teaching other teachers how to teach group X classes. And then I decided, you know what, it'd be really great if I did videos, because I could reach more people. The videos I'm probably best known for is my buns of steel, abs of steel, thighs of steel, arms of steel. So they're the Buns of Steel series that I did in the 90s. I think I ended up with 22 titles, but that's what I'm best known for. And my love for fitness is actually helping people feel better in their bodies and to be able to have freedom of movement. Yeah.
Hey, and congratulations. Let's talk briefly about your induction to, you received a big award last weekend, and I want to make sure that we talk about that too. That was a big deal. Tell us what happened.
Yes, it was. I am very honored. It's called the National Fitness Hall of Fame. And I was actually inducted in 2008 for group X instructor. And then this year I was inducted for lifetime achievement. And I thought, well, wait a minute, I thought that was for older people. And they're like, yeah, you're come of age now. So so I was very honored to be inducted in this year's lifetime achievement. So thank you.
Well, it's funny because I talked about this before, but when I was teaching group fitness classes at 24 Hour Fitness back in the day, there was very little resources for, especially even before that, but there wasn't that many resources for instructors. We'd go down to the Voight Center and try to pick up stuff. It's only like one conference, the IDEA conference, once a year. So if you wanted content besides, eventually there was like turnstep.com. That's like, now you're talking about, the 2000s. It was your videos. And if we could get information from your videos, movement from your videos, and also your TV show, Fit Pros.
Yes, ESPN Fit Pros. Fitness Pros. That's what it was. Fitness Pros with Pepper Vaughn, Donna Richardson, Tracy York. I mean, we had such a great time. And I think the letters that we would get were either from instructors or prisoners. Prisoners. That was our fan base.
You have to remember, this was when the thong leotard was it was at its peak. And Tammy Lee, when you did your pivot turn,
I know there's a lot to see back there. That's never happening again. I'm done with thong leotards. So yeah, we can move on from that.
That's just a little bit of history for everybody. Well, my background is very similar, minus the videos. I was always more behind the camera than in front of the camera. So I started teaching. My mom got me into teaching when I was young. Like I was 16 or 17 when I started teaching classes.
Wow.
Yeah. And I got a great job at a women's gym, and the rest is history. So from teaching classes, I kind of worked my way into operations. I was the first graduating class from the National Academy of Sports Medicine in Chicago. So these certifications you have now that are so abundantly available to everybody, it wasn't back in the day. You had to fly to Chicago for a week and stay on their campus. It wasn't like it is now. You just take it online. It was heavy lifting.
You can get certified over the weekend. And that's why when sometimes people say, "Oh, are you certified? Do you have the latest certification?" I want to go,
which one?
No, but I have a master's degree in exercise science if you'd like to see that, and years of experience. I mean, anybody can do it. Not to say that it isn't something that you should do.
Oh, absolutely.
It is years of experience.
Yeah, it opens doors for you. So I did that, and of course I always say I'm a little over certified because I do like taking the newest and the latest certifications, like on aging. I'm doing one now on overall wellness. And they call them certifications, but they're really just really in-depth trainings, which I love. So I have tons of background in fitness, but what I did really well, and I would encourage women to do it when they're working in fitness, is I got my foothold in operations. So I was able to carve out a really great career in fitness via operations, because I was saying to Tammy, at your level, you can make a decent living at your level, pumping out videos and stuff. But if you're an instructor or a trainer, it's hard to make a living unless you parlay that into something that's bigger and has more legs. So I got a gig with 24 Hour Fitness, being the Group X director for a whole region. And then I moved on to a YMCA, ran a Y. And Beachbody, I actually trained the trainers that trained the instructors. So that's kind of where my background is. But one thing I've done that's super important to me is I've always tried to help women find a way to make a living in the industry, because my heart's for women who want to teach classes. And, how can you do it and make some money doing it? So, I love the industry. It's been very, very good to me, but it's not good to everybody, because it's really hard to make a living teaching classes full time. It's just it's not smart, and it's really hard to do. So that's my background in fitness, is just the institutional knowledge I have over time on my feet is pretty substantial.
Yeah. Okay. So now our experience in pickleball.
Well,
how long have you been playing pickleball?
I'm a hack. Since the pandemic. It's a funny story. So during the pandemic, I took my grandson to the park. And then I wanted to swing by my dad's house, and I was just going to swing by my dad's house and, waved him through the window, like, how you doing, Dad? He was like 78 at the time. I go to my dad's house, and there's 20 cars out front. And I look over the wall, and they're playing this game in their backyard. And I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen, Dad. A bunch of 80-year-old men in the height of the pandemic. It was like April. We got shut down in March. It's like April. He put 2 pickleball courts up, and then he invited me over. He's like, come over and play. I'm like, okay, I'll be there. And the rest is history. Like my dad invited me over, and I play with bunch of old men that kick my butt to this day.
Yeah.
They
don't underestimate those elderly players. Yeah.
So that's my start.
I think mine was around there, maybe a little bit later. I've only been playing for about 2 years. So, and I play for fun. I would play more competitive if my knees felt better. But for right now, I play about 3 to 4 times a week, and I just love it. And it's why we're here. We have this love for pickleball, and we want to actually share and help people to know that in order to stay out on a pickleball, because pickleball is we think it's a boomer sport. It is not. There is so many
No.
young people in it now, but it's a fast game. It's extremely fast. So no, you don't have as much running to do as you would in tennis, but it's a quicker game because the ball is a wiffle and it goes a lot faster. So there's quick movements. And if you're not prepared, warming up your body to get out there and be aware of what you're doing and listen to your body, then you're going to get injured and you're not going to be out there as much. Yeah. So that's why we're here.
So let's start. So last week we did ankles and feet. So this week we're doing knees. And it's so interesting about the knees though, because people tend to, much like the lower back, like my back hurts. Well, if your back hurts, it's probably because your hips are tight. And a lot of knee problems start probably at the hips, from the hips not being warm or not being mobile enough. So there's two things I want to talk about, and you're the expert. But one is flexibility and having being flexible to not get hurt. But also I think the part that's overlooked as we age, especially, is mobility. Do you have the right range of motion inside the joint? Because flexibility means you can stretch a muscle really well, but range of motion means you can actually move inside of that range of motion for that joint. So if you want to take it over and talk about all things knee.
Well, each joint, if you think about, last week was our ankle joint, and then it's our knee joint and our hip, and they're all connected. One cannot work without the other. And if one is injured on one side, you'll compromise, and then you'll start favoring one side, and it just messes everything up. It's not symmetrical. So one of my favorite things, and I go to the court, it travels with me in my pickleball bag and my suitcase, and it's a fabric band. It's made of fabric. I put it above my knees, and I'll do traveling, sidewalks. I'll walk backwards with it. I'll push my legs out. I call those butterflies. But what it does, it's activating those high glutes, which also help and support your low back, and get you prepared. And then when you take that off, you just feel like, oh gosh, I feel so much lighter. So you can do it. You can also do a rubber band. This is the rubber band. Mine is from Spry. No, we're not getting paid for that. But the rubber band as well, put it above your knees or even around your ankles with the rubber band. The fabric band, not so much around the ankles, but traveling lunges, lunging deep, like you said, having not just a flexibility, but the range of motions. So nice, deep traveling lunges, walking it back in a half squat, or I call hinge position. Lateral movement. You want to get the lateral from side to side. You want forward and back. You want diagonal, because those are all the movements that you're going to be using. Now, a lot of times back problems end, they're overusing their back because they have weak abdominals. So they go hand in hand. So I always say there's a team. So your quadriceps, your partner is your hamstring, and in your low back, it's your abdominals. So you want to have strong abs, but in the knee, here's where I have my issues playing pickleball is I've got torn meniscus. So torn meniscus, I've got to tape up my knees and I wear a brace while I'm playing. Now, while I'm playing, the blood is flowing. It feels good. I don't feel it like I normally would. I certainly pay for it afterwards because now it's cooled down and I've done some jarring on it, some twisting, but I have limitations with it. So I've got to strengthen my quadriceps to help my knees. How do I do that? A lot of times I walk backwards up a hill. So every day I have to walk my dog. We go around and there's a hill on our street, and I walk backwards, certainly knowing where I'm walking. If you're on a treadmill, elevate, walk backwards, hold on to the side. You can also sit against the wall like you're doing a wall squat, and then bring your toes up. So pulling them back up, dorsiflexion, pulling them up. So that will strengthen the lower part of the leg, which is connected to the lower part of the knee, because you've got to work both upper and lower, because your knee is right here. So you want to be able to do some exercises that will strengthen those. But stretching, working through mobility, one of my favorite things to do, I just did it with a client this morning. If you take one of the longer foam rollers, stand it up in front of you, and then try and lift your leg over it.
Yes.
So this is a great way. I call it over the gate or over the fence. So you're lifting your leg and going around it to go through that hip mobility. So those are a few of my favorites for your hips and your knees.
It's I always say too that we're a study of one. So what works for me may not work for you. What works for you may not work for me. Right. But these are all stuff for the general population. And what you need to do is test it out, see if it works for you. One thing I have is this is an amazing tool. It's called a Nordic. And
nice.
There's, by the way, we have videos on our Instagram page, one Pickleball Prehab on Instagram. And we have videos of how to use these tools for tubing, how to use this. It hooks underneath the door. And then you hook your feet underneath the pads here, and you basically are on your knees and you drop forward, and your goal is to use your quadriceps, your glutes, and your extensors to kind of pop yourself back up. It is challenging, and there's so many different ways to modify it. When I get tired, I start bending my knees more. The longer the lever, the harder it is. Right. So the straighter my body is, the harder it is. So I'll start to bend my knees a little bit, and I'll use my arms more to push me up. But the one thing that's great about this is if you work out from home, like I'm an at-home girl. If you work out from home, it's really hard to get in any type of decent hamstring work because there's no hamstring curl machine at my house. I mean, I can do deadlifts, squats, things with dumbbells, but this is one of the best things for your hamstrings. And actually it's one of the best tools for your knees. And
it's inexpensive, right?
Oh, it's like $15 on Amazon. Yeah. I get a lot of my play tools on Amazon because one, they're inexpensive and I might not like it. That's the thing too. Like I have got some things that I'm like, that's kind of dumb. This is actually super smart. It's one of the best things I've bought from Amazon. Yeah. So it's important to go ahead.
I saw you do that. And I was, first of all, very impressed and jealous because it's hard for me to get on my knees, to put the weight on my knees. Yep. So I thought, okay, how can I modify this? Like you said, may not be for everybody. I would do the same exercise using the same tool, but I would probably put a stability ball out in front of me.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm guiding myself a little bit more and coming out, but not to use, you don't want to push with your arms because then you're not firing your hamstrings and your quadriceps. But if I need a little assistant, it's a way to guide me out and bring it back in while still working the core, your hamstrings and the quadriceps.
It's like I go back to, we're talking about how to strengthen your knees and how it's going to happen through your hamstrings, through your quads, through your butt. Like, because the knee is such an interesting joint. There's so many parts to the knee joint. It's not a ball and socket. There's so much that can happen because it's just two bones connected by ligaments, tendons, fascia. Like it's just connected by things and a lot can go wrong there. I think a lot of knee injury, and a lot of knee injuries happen because of overuse. Just being overused or acute injuries. Like a football player will tear their ACL, their MCL, like that's acute. But what happens with pickleball players, it's basically probably overuse and not having enough of the right muscles strong enough to buttress those two joints, to strengthen those two joints with strong quads, hamstrings.
And you just said it, you nailed it. It was the strength. So if you're finding that you're having those issues, if you go to the gym and you can use a leg extension.
Yes.
What I do is I have you do extension 10 times, and then I want you to hold it for 1 minute. So you're going to do a static contraction right there, holding that weight and seeing if you can hold it for 1 minute and then slowly bring it down. Great way to contract and build those quads. And then again, it's just leaning up against a wall and pulling your toes up. Yeah. Your shins don't need a whole lot. So let's say you don't do a lot of hiking, but one day you decide, I'm going to go out in nature. I'm going to go hiking. And all of a sudden the next day your shins hurt. The reason they hurt, yes, the tibialis is this because your foot did this dorsiflex, right? So it had to elevate to do this to push off. So your shins are sore. And we don't think about, well, my shins look great. I don't need to work them. Yes, you do. You need to strengthen them.
Yeah.
So
it's one great big kinetic chain. Like we're all, and we'll get to fascia. We talked a little bit about it last week, but I'm so excited about this podcast because we can talk about fascia and how the memory that's in fascia and how it runs throughout your entire body. And if you could just smooth a lot of that out, a lot of your pain, a lot of your
Would
flexibility, mobility will go away if you learn how to treat the fascia in your body. So,
can I just say something about, because we're talking about so our whole thing about prehab is to keep you from rehab. All right.
Oh, yes.
So if we can get you to do some of these things before you go on the court, and then as you come off the court, you and I being group X instructors, we know the importance of cooling down and stretching after a workout. You kind of want to do the same thing. So if you played really hard for 2 hours, take that time to stretch back out those Achilles, the calves, the quadriceps, your hamstring. And then if your knees do hurt, like mine do, I'm a big believer on as much natural, being as natural as possible. I do not go home and take any Advil, Tylenol, which can usually nap it in the butt. Okay. What I will do is I'll come home, I'll ice it. I might even put some castor oil on it with some heat after I ice it. But I don't want to get in a habit of depending on that medication because it's really bad for your liver. Yeah. And I just had a blood test and my liver's really great. Yes, and your gut health.
It's like the gut. It's like there's so much about Motrin. Like, it's a short-term fix. Yeah. And listen, save it for when you really need it. Right. There will be a time in your life when you're probably really going to need it. Like right now, my husband with his hips, he has his hip replaced next week. Yeah. He really needs it for his hip right now, just to function. And if you take it all the time, it loses its, it just doesn't work as well because your body has to digest it. It's like,
it is really bad. It's a good or bad. It's good, but that is the same thing. Only if I'm just like in dire's need, am I going to take anything like that?
Yeah. But one thing too that's people don't talk enough about, and when I do my wellness coaching, when I look at someone's lifestyle, the first thing I look at is how much water are you actually drinking? Because if you think of a muscle like a ribeye, and if you're dehydrated, it's like beef jerky. Like a beef jerky is dehydrated ribeye. If you look at the muscle dehydrated, that's why your muscle hurts. That's why you would tear something. That's why something's going to, like when I hurt my back, about 5 or 6 years ago doing CrossFit, the first thing my coach said was, I just flew cross country fly. I was working for Beachbody and I was dehydrated. I didn't think I was dehydrated. And I thought, holy cow, I never put that together. Now all I do is see my muscle as beef jerky if I'm dehydrated. So think about when you're playing pickleball, you have to drink enough water regardless of the weather. Even when it's cold out, even like you have to drink water because your muscles need the hydration so they move better. So they slide like that sliding filament theory. I'm holding my hands together and I'm kind of sliding my fingers together and I'm pulling apart like your muscles just slide that way. When they're dehydrated, they hook, they kind of get stuck and they don't move as well. And that's how people get hurt as well. Because if your muscle's not sliding in and out, something's gonna give. Yeah, it'll be a ligament.
Think of it as WD-40, or your gas tank. If you're not putting the fuel in it, it's not going to run as well. It's not going to go eventually because you don't have the fuel. And water is definitely a fuel that you need. You need to drink half your body weight.
Think about prehab if you don't want to get hurt.
You're making me thirsty now.
I know. I want to drink water now too because I was just talking to myself about that. I feel like I'm like parched. One thing about prehab is if you don't want to get hurt, the easiest thing is water. Like that's number one. Yeah. Number two would be mobility, warming up the joints. Like we say, preparing the body for what's to come. What are you going to do to prepare? And we'll have a whole podcast on just like warm up moves. We'll throw them on our Instagram page. And that's what our Pickleball Prehab 1 hour clinic is about that we do. We do it via Zoom or we do it in person. But that 1 hour clinic is to show people these are the things you need to do before you warm up. Before you play. Before you it's not dinking. Dinking's not a warm up. I wish I could dinking's not a warm up. Like prepare your body, and how you're going to do that is by doing these moves. You're going to shuffle, you're going to skip, you're going to hop, you're going to do something ballistic, you're going to lunge, you're going to squat, extend your hip. We'll give you all the things you need to do. And that's why that course is so successful is people are like blown away. Like they never thought about, I don't just get in my car and then go grab my paddle and dink with my friend and then start banging it? I'm like, well, you can, but your brain is wired in a certain way that if you march in place, your brain will go right, left, right, left, right, left, and you'll start putting together movement sequences. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because you're talking about brain. So I do a lot of the neuromuscular, combining your brain, because if your brain is functioning, your body will follow suit, right? So we know that proprioceptors throughout our body has got to fire. So I did this yesterday playing pickleball. It was after we already warmed up, it was our first game, and balls are flying. I'm like, okay,
first
girls,
game's the worst.
we need to put a little brain power in there. So I asked them to do these little drills with me. So if you're listening, this is what it looks like. So if you take one hand and make a fist, and then take the other hand and open it up with the palm down. Do that with me. Okay. Now switch. And switch. You're just switching your hand.
Yeah.
Do you see what you do? Okay, that's an easy one. Now let's make it. Now let's make it another one. So put a 2 up, 2 fingers on one hand and a 1 on the other.
I don't want to flip anybody off. I fear this one.
No, this is not a flip off. This is the fingers. Okay, now switch.
Wait.
So do you see how you had to think about it?
Yeah.
So now if you've got on your left hand 2 fingers up and 1 finger on your right, switch that as quick as you can. Oh. And then you keep going.
Okay.
Okay, pretty soon it catches on.
See, I knew I would do that. Sorry.
So those are just things, because for a second you had to think about that, Barb.
Yeah.
And that second was your brain firing, going, wait a minute, that's new. Let me get this. And it's the same with when you're learning something.
Yeah, if you're tactile too, like people learn by seeing, by hearing. I was a teacher's worst nightmare because I was like 33. I had to see it, I had to hear it, I had to touch it.
Oh, wow.
Like some people are very much, I can see it, I can hear it. I was the one in class. I had to see it, I had to hear it, and I had to try it. I say my teacher's nightmare, but it's helped me because I've had to create workarounds in my life. So I'm really good at I talk with my hands, and I talk fast too, but I talk with my hands and I do big gestures. I want everyone to understand the way my brain needs to see it or hear it. So that proprioception, anything that gets your brain functioning. Yeah. And it's like when they're teaching kids how to read, learning how to read, if they start stumbling with their words, the teacher will stand them up, have them march in place. Right, left, right, left. It gets the brain, it opens the neural pathways. And the same thing with pickleball.
Yes, exactly.
Skip. Right, left, shuffle. Like anything to get the brain open up the neural pathways will help you play better pickleball too. So, and not get hurt because your brain's functioning. People get hurt when they're like baby giraffes, when they think they're going somewhere, their body doesn't come with them. They stop, but then their body keeps going. Like they don't have this open communication with their brain and their body. And that's how a lot of injuries happen too. Like I call it baby giraffes. I'm like,
baby giraffe. Yeah.
Baby giraffes.
Okay. Well, I thought we should add to our program a little trivia.
Yes.
Because I always like that. When somebody says, here's a little trivia, what is, so this week's trivia is, what is a tweener? And this has to do with pickleball, not fitness.
Okay.
What is a tweener?
I don't know.
I had to look it up. So a tweener is when you go and hit the ball between your thighs. So usually it will happen on a lob. Yes. And it's usually the guys. And they'll run back and then they'll return it between the legs.
How do they do? Okay.
I've never done that.
I've seen it done before.
Yes.
I've seen men do some crazy things. I was talking last week with you, Tammy, about men playing pickleball and beginning. Like I see a bunch of beginners play like an open play and they're bangers and they don't know how to keep score and they don't know how to play pickleball. But I'll be darned if they're all not hitting the ball and learning how to spin it, put top spin on it. Men learn how to do top spin before they learn how to keep score. Like it's the funniest thing about a man and a top. Like I'm just learning how to do top spin right now, but men know top spin before they know the rules of the game, how to keep the ball in the court, and how to keep score. But damn, they can sure as heck top spin that ball.
Yeah. Well, and scoring, that was one of the hardest things to learn, I think, with pickleball. And for those of you that are maybe new at this, bangers, you want to explain what a banger is?
A banger is someone just hits the crap out of the ball. Like there's no finesse. It's not so much no finesse, but
there's
they just
no
hit
dinking.
it so hard. There's no dinking. They don't dink. They don't lob. They just bang it. And men are bangers. And the pros play. The pros are good. They're good strategic bangers. I play with people who are they're great players, but they're also just bangers. Like, oh crap, you go up to the net and you're just either pushed back to the baseline the entire time, or you just have your paddle up and you're just like popping them back to her, So, and bangers are interesting because everyone has like that great kill shot, right? Like I've got a great kill shot. This girl I play with, Val, she's got a great kill shot to the corner. Like she doesn't hit it back to you. She hits it like to where you're not. It's so smart. But a banger just hits the ball hard. With no, And when we talk, not derogatorily about this, I'm talking bad about bangers, but like a banger, sometimes their pickleball skill is not the best, but they hit the crap out of the ball and they'll beat you. They can beat the heck out of me because I'm usually turning my back. I'm jumping up, doing the splits. I'm screaming. So it's good to play with them every now and then, but it's not my favorite.
So that's the banger. So we got a banger and a tweener.
Yeah. How was your pickleball this week? What'd you do?
Pickleball was fun. We, like I said yesterday, we end up laughing so much, which I always say laughter is one of the best ab workouts. When you're laughing so hard and you're like, stop, my abs hurt. Well, we have, quite a few of the women that I play with are hilarious, but this one girlfriend of mine, a friend of ours, who is total ectomorph, tall, beautiful, like model, 6 foot tall. And everything she does is graceful. Even when she misses the ball, it is graceful. We call her ballerina. She just has us in stitches because of what comes out of her mouth. And I think I want to do that, like you had shared, I think on the first episode, mic 'em up. But then we have another one that we call no filter. She's got a potty mouth. I'm not sure. We'd probably be having to beep a lot. But anyway, we had fun.
I love that about that. I have so much fun because my group is very similar. We have some bangers, but they're great players. The potty mouth cracks me up because they say things that I probably would think but wouldn't say, and I'm so drawn to them because they make me laugh harder than anything. Like that. Yeah. I've played in a tournament with Kimmy, and we mic'd ourselves up for the tournament, and we couldn't show half. I couldn't play half of it because it's just she's the things she says. I die. I seriously die. The whole group I play with, that's the beauty of pickleball too. We'll get more into community as we get going with this podcast, but just the community that you find. What we'll talk about too in a future podcast, Tammy Lee, is how to find places to play. So I just moved to Texas. So I went to Courtside Kitchen and I found a great community there, but I live in Parker County and I found Parker County Pickleball Association. And I found out there's courts not far from my house. And they use an app. So we'll share all these ways that you can actually find pickleball in your area, or you can start it. You can start it in your area. Like you could rent, like at TCU, you could rent 2 courts. You can get 8 women and you can play for 2 hours for 20, 40 bucks.
A lot of the public courts, we have public courts right down the road and they're always, it seems to be open at certain times, but it is just a fabulous, fun, social time. We go out for about 2 hours. We put on the music, we laugh. And of course we have, I don't know, we've got a few bruises. Okay, this is how big that bruise is. I mean, it's black and blue. Yeah, I have one here and I have one right on my abs. And I'm like, okay, maybe I should be wearing some armor, but but we still have fun. There's a lot of new pickleball courts that are being built. I just heard of one in LA off the 405 that I guess is just going to be huge. They're going to be on every corner, I think, soon.
Well, most cities, I think, are getting smart about turning tennis courts into pickleball courts now. You can fit at least three pickleball courts in one tennis court, at least. So you could do. So I see cities who are proactive in keeping their community healthy and happy. They're doing that. And then also you see these, like I go to Courtside Kitchen. There's something here called Chicken and Pickle, which is, I mean, it's like an adult playground. There's so many fun places in larger cities, but smaller communities have great rec centers, universities. Yeah. There's so many city parks. And also, listen, get yourself a portable net, because I have a portable net, so I can play pickleball almost anywhere with the portable net. So we'll go through all that too. But this is fun. I'm glad it's episode 2 in the tank now. Here we go. So make sure if you listen, please subscribe and please share our podcast, because we want to grow our community.
And we want to hear from you.
Yeah.
If you have questions or you want to have certain things like, would you do this on the show? Can you talk more about this for my whatever injury and I'm trying to get back? We want to hear from you. This is actually for you. Believe it or not. It's not just about us.
As we have.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. And we'll see you. This podcast comes out weekly, if all goes well. So we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye.